Hello and welcome to PDF for Exams YouTube channel. I hope you all are doing well. We are learning polity and today is day 6. This image has not been put properly over here. From next time we'll take care that these images are proper and we'll try to add few more images so that whatever we are going through, whatever we're learning, so that we have proper understanding of whatever we learn. So let's see what we are going to learn in today's video. So as I said, today is day 6 and in this video we will be learning about Union Legislature. In previous video we have already learned about introduction of our constitution, that means how our constitution was framed right from the beginning. After that we studied about fundamental right which were mentioned in constitution. Then we moved to learn about the fundamental duties, DPSP, that is and after that we learned about union executives, state executives. Now we are learning Union Legislature, and in next video we'll learn about state legislature. So let's see what we're going to learn today. So this Union Legislature, union means center. Whenever this term comes or whenever you read this term union, it means it is related to central government, whether it is executive or legislative. Executive means the body which is responsible for execution or administration of the law which has been made by this legislative body, whereas this legislative body is responsible for making laws which can be enacted or which are made for welfare of a public or citizen of India. So our legislator, so as I mentioned or as I told, that legislation means the body which is responsible for making law. So our legislator, it consists of 3 bodies, not legislator actually. The law-making body of ours is called Parliament. Parliament is not any building. So generally you might have heard that the sitting or the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, people sit in Parliament. So Parliament is not a building. It can be called a building, but actually it means a structure of government. So our structure of government sits in Parliament. Parliament is a kind of structure. So under Parliament we have 3 bodies or 3 parts which is mentioned in Article 79. And if we talk about Union Legislature as a whole, so this Union Legislature as a whole is mentioned in part 5 of our Indian Constitution under Article 79 to 129. And what does these articles consist of, or what these articles explain? These articles explain the organization, composition, duration, officers, procedure, privilege and power of Parliament. So these are mentioned under these articles. Now let's see what is the composition of a parliament. So as I said, our parliament is a structure of legislature which is law-making body. It consists of president and 2 houses. What are those houses? Those are lower house and upper house. Lower house is called as Lok Sabha and upper house is called as Rajya Sabha. At the beginning of constitution, when the constitution was formed, these names were not given. Earlier at the beginning, at the formation of constitution, the lower house was called as House of People, whereas the upper house was called Council of State. House of People means it directly represents the people, the citizens of a country, whereas Council of State represents particular states. That means if we have 29 states in a country, so the state representation will be there in Rajya Sabha. And when were these names adopted? This Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha name was adopted after Representation of People Act 1951. After that, these Hindi names were adopted for these houses of parliament, that is lower house and upper house. So the people or the ministers who are sitting in these houses, several ministers sit. They are called MPs or member of parliament. Later in this video we'll see how these MPs are elected for both the houses. But before, let's see what are the qualification of the member of parliament, and before that let's see from where this parliamentary form of government which are responsible for making law are adopted. So these are adopted since the Government of India Act 1991. The Union Legislature has been bicameral. Bicameral means dual house. So in previous videos also I have told that our central government or Union Legislature or central government is bicameral, which consists of 2 houses. Lower house is called Lok Sabha and the upper house is called Rajya Sabha. Whereas if we talk about the state, in states it's not necessary that every government or every body of legislature would be bicameral. It may be unicameral or bicameral, depends upon the condition of the state and the demand of the state or the demand of the member of legislative assembly. If they wish, if all the member at legislative assembly wish to have a council of minister, and that is called the upper house over there, or Vidhan Parishad we call it at that place, or member of council we call there. So they can have bicameral house. If they don't wish, they can only function in single house, that is called member of legislative assembly. So no, legislative assembly, member of legislative assembly would be the person sitting in that house and that house will be called Legislative Assembly, and in Hindi we call it Vidhan Sabha. So now moving later, we'll see what are the qualification of member of parliament, whoever are sitting in this Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Since in this video we are talking about union legislator, so we'll only stick to the members who are present in center, that is in parliament. What is parliament? The structure which consists of two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So any person sitting in those houses will be called member of parliament, as I've already told. Now what are the qualifications? That means if anyone wants to be a member of any of these two houses, what qualifications should he or she has? So any person who want to be a member of parliament should be a citizen of India. Of course, this is very compulsory. Not less than 30 years of age in case of Rajya Sabha. That means if you want to be a member of Rajya Sabha, your age should not be less than 30 years, and for Lok Sabha it is 25 years. Next, he must be registered as an elector for parliamentary constituency. Now what is this parliamentary constituency and what is this elector? So you might have observed your parents or yourself are adult enough to cast vote. So you might have seen in your constituency, whenever you go for casting your vote, you might have seen your names in electoral list. If your name is present, then only you can give your vote, or else you can't give your vote. So anyone who wants to be a member of parliament, or he wants to be elected as member of parliament, who want to stand in election, they must be also registered as an elector. Only then they can stand for the election, or else they can't. This also proves a kind of citizenship. That means if you are citizenship of India, or if you have citizenship of India, then only you can be a member or elector for electing member of parliament or government of a country. So this shows that you should be member of elector. Now before moving forward, let's see how these MPs are elected. So for both the houses, for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, election are of different kinds. So we'll see both the houses quickly, how member of both the houses are elected. So in case of Lok Sabha election means, you have seen that recently in 2019 we had Lok Sabha election. Lok Sabha elections forms the central government, and at center in present we have BJP headed by Mr. Narendra Modi. He is the Prime Minister of a country. So how these elections takes place? So if you have observed and you have seen, so our country is divided into several constituencies. So if this is our country, I'm just drawing a rough map. I'm not very expert at drawing with mouse over here. It's just a diagram, okay? So this country is divided into several states. We know this very well. And each states are divided into constituencies. Constituencies means small blocks. And how these constituencies are divided, as we know, in Lok Sabha we can have maximum member 552. This is the maximum number which can be present in our Lok Sabha, but at present we have 545 members. So that means these states and union territories, not just the states, we have 29 states and union territories. So these members, the 545 constituencies, would be divided in states and union territories. In union territories we have 20 members, or we have 20 seats for reserved for these union territories, whereas 530 seats are reserved for states. That means 530 constituencies will be divided in all states, and there are certain procedure for dividing. That means the representation for members of each place should be equal. We'll see this later, how they are divided and what are the ratio maintained. But here, to just understand how member of an Lok Sabha is elected, for that very purpose we can see here that our country is divided into state and territories, and these states and union territories are divided into territorial constituencies, and constituencies consist of several members who are standing in election. For example, we'll take a simple example. If let's take an example of Delhi, although Delhi is a union territory, we'll not take its example. If we take example of Uttar Pradesh, so Uttar Pradesh will be divided into certain constituencies. So if it is divided into let's take example 50 constituencies, there is fixed number for every state. I'm not going into that, those are facts. I'm just taking examples so that you understand how the election is done. So if UP is divided into 50 territorial constituencies, at each territorial constituencies several people will be standing for election, and all the people of that particular constituency will vote for that constituency. So if let's take example of UP, as I've already told, if 50 constituencies are there, and if we take just example and understand by one constituency, so in this constituency if 1000 people are going to vote, and there are several members standing for getting ticket or for becoming member of parliament, and the very party or the very person who gets the maximum votes will become member of parliament and will be one member of this 545 will be sitting in Lok Sabha. I hope this is clear how elections for Lok Sabha are done. Similarly, it happens with every constituency. Now, what are the important elements that are to be considered? That means how are these territorial constituencies divided? So, there are only two factors which are to be considered. So, these two factors are that ratio between number of seats and population is same for all states. So, what is ratio? Ratio means simply divide. So, for example, if we consider X to be the ratio, it should be equal to number of seats. So whatever the number of seat is over here, we have to determine. So let's take example Y over here, and we know the population is calculated according to 2001 census, which is fixed or which is freeze up to 2020 election. That is done by 84th amendment. So it is fixed till 2026 that this census of population cannot be changed. So for example, if we are considering this seat of a particular state, for example UP, and in UP if you have got 1 crore population, so this X is the resultant of this ratio between the number of seats and population. So this X should be common for all state, and this seat is determined by, so for example if we find this ratio is same for every state, so this number will be determined or will see according to this ratio. So this is actually a mathematical calculation. I hope you're understanding what I mean to say. In single statement, if I say, so they just see that this population of each constituency and number of seat allotted should be same throughout the state. So these are the two factors which are considered while giving seats for MP's election in states. So moving to qualification, we have already seen the qualification. Let's move to the other part of the union legislator, that is session of parliament, summoning, prorogation and dissolution. So what does these terms mean? Let's see them one by one. So the president, who is the president? We have already seen he is head of the state. So the president shall from time to time summon each house of parliament to meet such time and place as he thinks, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting. That is, president invites the member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha or member of parliament to have sittings, but the important point to be learned over here or to remembered over here is that there should not be gap more than 6 months between two sittings. So if parliament is sitting for 2 months and again 2 months and 2 months, so these are the sessions, so it should not, the gap between two sessions should not be more than 6 months. That means minimum session in a year should be 2, although generally we have 3 sessions in our parliament sittings. Let's see what are those. So generally we have 3 sittings, that is the budget session, monsoon session and the winter session. The budget session starts from February to May, the monsoon session goes from July to September, and the winter session goes from November to December. So over here, president is responsible for holding meetings or these sessions in the Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. Now, what are the session timings? So generally, if you work somewhere or if you've seen your parents working, you see that your parents work in 2 session or 2 timings. First they go from morning and there is lunch. Actually there is a break in between, whether the timing evening or morning, or your parents are working in night shift or day shift, but the common thing between them is that there is a break in between. So similarly it goes with the session of parliament also. Over here it is written, the session contains many meetings, each meeting has 2 sittings. So for example, a meeting has to be held tomorrow, so tomorrow the sitting will start at 11 to 1 p.m. post lunch, and after lunch it would be 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that means there should be a lunch between 2 sittings. This is what it has to be told over here. Next is sitting parliament can be terminated by adjournment sine die, prorogation or dissolution. So these are the kind of termination. That means if a party or the member of parliament are sitting for any kind of meeting, those meetings can be terminated by several methods, and these methods are adjournment sine die, and prorogation or dissolution. So all these terms have different meaning. We'll see later what does these all terms means. And the period between prorogation of the house and its assembly in new session is called recess. So for example, we have seen the sessions over here. there was budget session, there was monsoon session, there was winter session. So the time gap between, for example, from February to May, now from May to July, which month is there? May, June. So June is the month. So June will be called the recess period for that parliament or for the house. So moving to next point, what is summoning? Summoning, as I've already told, calling for meeting. The president can call the member of parliament for meeting at the session for discussing any matter, and it is duty of president to summon each house. That means president is the sole responsible for calling member of parliament for sitting either in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And one point to be one point that has to be learned over here, and which is important, that the gap between the two sessions should not exceed more than 6 months. If one session is held today, after 6 months second session has to be held anyhow, no matter what happens. But there are certain conditions, like if emergency is there, so the session may not exist at that time. This is what we call summoning. Now moving to this adjournment. Adjournment, I've told, this is a method of termination of session. If any session is going on, so that session can be terminated. So what's written here? An adjournment suspend the work in sitting for a specific time, which may be hours, day or week. Second, in this case, the time and assembly is specified. That means if any session is adjourned by president, if he adjourns that this session is adjourned, but he will tell the time that when we are going to meet again for meeting at this house. So this is important over here. And the power of adjournment lies with the presiding officer of the house. Now, who are the presiding officers? Presiding officers means the officers who are responsible for business of the parliament. So in lower house, the speaker is the presiding officer, whereas in Rajya Sabha or the upper house, vice president is the presiding officer. They are responsible for adjournment of these meeting. Next is adjournment sine die. So this adjournment, there is one difference, that over here time would be told that when we are going to meet again, but here the termination of sitting of parliament for indefinite period. That means the period that when we are going to meet again is not mentioned over here. And this is the only specific difference between adjournment and adjournment sine die. Over here it is explained that the house is adjourned without naming a day of reassembly. And again, the power lies with the presiding officer of house. In lower house, it is the speaker, and in upper house, it is the vice president. Now, moving to prorogation. Prorogation, what does this prorogation means? So this is also a kind of termination, which I've already told. So prorogation means termination of session by house by an order made by president under Article 85 2A of the Constitution. In the upper case, in adjournment, we have seen that the presiding officer of that particular house is responsible for adjourning the session, but this prorogation right is vested with president according to Article 85 clause 85 part 2 clause A of the Constitution. Only president can prorogate a session. Now, what does this prorogation do actually? What it does? So in prorogation, it terminates both the sitting and session of the house. Session, what we have seen, session means like the budget session, monsoon session and winter session. So it ends the sitting as well as the session. That means once this prorogation is done, president will call again for next meeting, or president will again summon next meeting after some time. So this is called prorogation. Now, president can also prorogate while house is in session. It's not necessary that president can prorogate only at the end of the session. If conditions exist, or if there are some condition or some kind of existence is there that this prorogation would be required during the session, or the work is not complete, then also president has right of power to prorogate the session. Last type of termination that we are going to see is here dissolution. Now, what is dissolution? Dissolution means complete end of the house. That means completely, it actually completely ends the functioning of the house. Dissolution only happens in case of Lok Sabha, not in Rajya Sabha, as Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. So dissolution ends the very life of existing house, and a new house is constituted after general election are held. So whenever general elections are going to be held, so this method is used for termination of the session of house. So this can be only done with the Lok Sabha. In case of Rajya Sabha, the session or the house is not dissolved. Now there are 2 points. If what is this? On expiry of tenure, 5 years or term as extended during national emergency, automatic dissolution happens. So whether the president dissolute the house or not, but whenever the elections are to be held, the session or the Lok Sabha house automatically dissolves. And second, the order of a president may dissolve the house even in case of no confidence motion. What is no confidence motions? Whenever the opposite party or few members of Lok Sabha passes a no confidence motion against the present government or union council, at that time also the house is completely dissolved and new elections are to be held. So this is the power of dissolution. Now the important factor over here is that Rajya Sabha is permanent house, and in constitution it is not mentioned that Rajya Sabha has to be dissolved, but it was left to the MPs or member of parliament. They were responsible for this dissolution of Rajya Sabha. So according to Representation of People Act 1951, it was said that the dissolution of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. That means the tenure of member of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. After 6 years, the member may retire and he may be re-elected by the procedure, whatever the procedure was required. And I haven't told about the procedure of election of Rajya Sabha. We'll talk them about later. So let's see, there are few terms which are related to functioning of parliament. What are those terms? So the very first term is quorum. Quorum means the minimum number required to start the session. So for example, if you go to a classroom and in classroom strength is 40 and if only 4 persons are present, then teacher would generally not take the class. So it's the same case in of parliamentary function also. If in parliamentary, if very few members are present, then in that case the session cannot start. It is mentioned in Article 100 that the quorum of the house shall either be 1/10 of the total number of the house. So for example, in case of Lok Sabha, how many members are there? 545. So the minimum number to maintain the quorum is 55, and in case of Lok Sabha, if 245 is the number, the minimum number to start the session is 25. So these are the quorum. If it is not, if quorum is not there, then session cannot start. Next is question hour. Question hour simply means starting the question or putting the question for discussion in the session. So this start in the very first hour of the session, and there are several type of questions which are forwarded by ministers for discussion in the parliament. So those are the start question, unstart question, short notice question. What are these questions? Let's see them one by one. Start question are generally marked by asterisk. What is asterisk? Asterisk is a star. That means it deals with answering orally, and it is required, oral answer is required to be given by minister on the floor, and supplementary question may be asked. So since this question is oral, if someone raises one question, if other person answers, so in that instance what we can see that counter question be done or second question be asked in the context of the first question. The second type of question is unstart question, the question which are not starred. So here minister may ask the question and that answer of those questions would be given in written, and supplementary question may not be asked. It would not be asked actually if answers are asked in written. Second is short notice question. If there is any urgency, so short notice question can be given and answers are taken orally for these. And when these short notice questions are given, when there is matter of urgency nature, for example any kind of special law has to be made, in that time short notice questions are raised. So this is what called question short notice question. The next instrument of regulating or functioning of the parliament for making laws is 0 hour. What is 0 hour? This 0 hour is followed by question hour. That means after question hour is completed, 0 hour starts. In this 0 hour, any member can raise various issues for discussion. So in parliament only we make law, as I have told that in parliament the member of parliament are there to make laws which will ultimately govern the population or the citizen of a country. So over there mostly bills are raised and those discussion are done over the bill that whether they should be made act or not. So 0 hour is the time which starts after the question hour and end before the starting of agenda of the day. For example, if houses of parliament are sitting for any meeting, if Lok Sabha is sitting, member of Lok Sabha are sitting in Lok Sabha for any kind of session or meeting, so they will have agenda for the day. So the session doesn't start with agenda itself, it starts with question hour, then followed by 0 hour and finally agenda. So this is the way how session proceeds daily. Now next is cut motion. What is this cut motion? What is motion actually? Motion is a kind of a statement passed on by any minister, individual or group of minister, so that if any discussion is going on, that discussion could be cut short or the debate on that can be reduced so that time is not wasted much on any particular topic which is not very important at that particular time. So let's see what is a cut motion and what a type of cut motion. So here a cut motion that seeks the reduction of amount of demand represented by government is known as cut motion, what I've already told. Here such motion are admitted at the speaker discretion. It is a device through which member can draw the attention of the government to specific grievance or the problem. That means if debate is going on any certain topic, so if the speaker want or the members want, they can pass this motion and the debate over that topic would be stopped. And there are three type of cut motion. Those are policy cut motion, economy cut motion, and token cut motion. So what does this mean and how they differ with each other? Policy cut motion means that any policy is being discussed in the parliament, so that can be completely disapproved or absolutely removed, as its value can be reduced to rupees 1. Rupees 1 reduction means that it is completely rejected. Simply it means that if someone passes policy cut motion, that means that policy or any point of discussion would be rejected. Next is economy cut motion. So for example, any bill is passed, money bill is passed in Lok Sabha, and if the member of parliament think that the some amount of money has been given extra, for example, if money bill of 100 crores is passed and if parliament think that this work can be done only in 80 crores, so that the bill will be reduced by 20 crores. So that is called economy cut motion. Next is token cut motion. So this is just for namesake and it's not very important. Over here it is done for any Ventile specific grievance within the sphere of government responsibility. Over here it is just reduced by rupees 100 or some little amount. That means it is just for namesake, not very important. So these were the cut motion. Now next is calling attention motion. By the name itself it is clear. That means if any minister of any group of minister want to discuss a matter of urgent importance for public, for example, if any kind of crime is taking place in a country and that is becoming very common, and that particular matter has to be put into attention very soon and several law has to be made. For example, in recent times rape cases has been increasing and there has been urgent need of calling and making laws on that. So in that time or in that type of cases, calling attention motion can be passed. Next is privilege motion. Privilege means what? Privilege means the services given to the member of parliament. So if any member of parliament is found breaching those services or privilege given to him, so any other minister or member who finds or he sees or he thinks that the person who has been given this privilege is not respecting those privileges, then he or the ministers can pass this privilege motion. This is what we know as privilege motion. Next is vote on account. Now what is this vote on account? So as you know, there is gap between presentation of budget and its approval. So whenever any budget is passed in the government or any bill is passed in the government for approval, so there is gap whenever it is passed. For example, if any budget is passed today and it will take time of almost 2 to 3 months, or you can say 1 month for minimum, let's say. So for functioning for that 1 month, we need some fund. So in that time, this vote on account can be passed and fund can be withdrawn from Consolidated Fund of India to meet the expenses during that time. Next is guillotine. So guillotine is a word which was used, actually it was tool for cutting the head. So in this kind of motion, what happens, all the topics, whatever the points were given in any discussion or any bill, all the bill clause or the topic of the bill are brought together and discussed for voting, and after that they are put for voting. So this is what we call guillotine motion. Next is censure motion. What is the censure motion? Let's see. The censure motion differs from no confidence motion in that latter does not specify any grounds on which it is based, while the former has to state the reason for which it is being moved. That means censure motion. What was no confidence motion? We have seen that no confidence motion was there whenever the member of parliament think that the government is not functioning properly and then want re-election. In that case, no confidence motion was formed and the complete government would collapse and re-election would be done. But if we have censure motion, that means there should be not any reason or ground for passing this kind of motion and it will not dissolve the government itself. A censor motion can be moved against the Council of Minister or individual of failing to act some policy. So as I said, no confidence motion was raised against the Council of Minister or the current government acting in the parliament, whereas the censure motion can be passed for complete Council of Minister or any individual minister. And why it is passed? The reason behind passing this kind of motion by any minister or member of parliament is for whenever this Council of Minister or individual minister failed to act on some policies that has been made for them to act on. So this is the reason behind censor motion. Next is the speaker decide whether or not the motion in order to leave the house in required or moving it. So it is the speaker, the ultimate decision will be given by speaker that whether the allegation which has been given by censor motion on some minister is right or not. So the speaker will decide whether this motion will move and he will act accordingly. Next is the government may at its discretion fix a date for discussion of the motion. If motion is passed in Lok Sabha, the Council of Ministers accept to resign. So this motion, for this motion, so any motion passed in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, they are generally given for discussion. So first, if any motion is passed, that motion will be discussed in within the entire community. That means there are 545 members, all will discuss and voting is done. So whoever gets the votes, that will prevail. If majority is given for the motion, then that motion will pass. If the majority is given against the motion, that motion would not be passed and realized. So this was the censor motion. Moving to next point, that is Rajya Sabha. So what is Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha, as you have seen, it is the upper house of the parliament, and this is also called House of State or Council of State actually, because it represents the state. And how are elections done over here, we'll see that also. But before that, let's see some specification of Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha is the permanent house and not subject to dissolution. This I've already discussed. It is composed not more than 250 members. That means maximum strength of Rajya Sabha can be 250, not more than that. Out of these, 238 are to be representative of state and union territory, and 12 are nominated by president. And why these nominations are required? Whenever we see there are many prominent persons in our country who are specialized in various fields like literature, science and social science, so they can also participate in formation of policies and law for our country, and they do not have to go through long process of election. So that's why this nomination process is there in our parliament system, and 12 members can be nominated by president in Rajya Sabha, whereas in case of Lok Sabha it was 2, and Anglo-Indians were nominated if president feels that Anglo-Indian or any community has not been represented properly in Lok Sabha. But here in case of Rajya Sabha, the number of members to be nominated are 12, and they belong to several fields. Actually they are very specialized in those fields like literature, science, art and social services. And what is the object of nomination? That means distinguished personality, or they are very specialized person in their own field. Next is election, how these elections are done. So elections are not direct election, elections are done by representative method, proportional representation. And what is this proportional representation? We have already discussed in case of president and vice president, so I'm not going to discuss over here, but in short I'm telling you what happens. As we see, it is the member of Rajya Sabha elected by proportional representation. That means we as citizen of India are directly not responsible for electing MPs of Rajya Sabha. MPs of Rajya Sabha would be elected by internal election. That means an electoral college will be formed, as it was in case of president and vice president, but the member of electoral college varies from election to election. For example, for president it was different, for vice president it would be different, but in case of MPs for Rajya Sabha it would be different. So this member of electoral college consists of member of legislative assembly. Who are these members? These are the members of state executive or state legislator actually, because they are responsible for framing laws and sometimes execution also. So these MLA, these member of legislative assembly, are responsible for electing. For example, as I've told that our country is divided into several constituencies, and in these constituencies, for example, let's take example of Tamil Nadu over here. So in Tamil Nadu, if 50 members are there, 50 seats are given for MPs in Lok Sabha, so these 50 members will decide who should be promoted for MP in Rajya Sabha. So internal kind of election is done, not this direct election in case of Rajya Sabha. This was the procedure of election for Rajya Sabha. So moving next, Lok Sabha composition. So we've already discussed these things, but still we are memorizing, revising over here. So in case of Lok Sabha, it consists of maximum 552 maximum strength, and how these 552 strength is decided according to territorial constituencies, which I've already said. And 530 members should be from state, whereas 20 members should be from union territories, and 2 are nominated from Anglo-Indian community. And who nominates these members? President of country nominate these 2 members in Lok Sabha if he feels that this particular community has not been properly represented in Lok Sabha as MP. The constitution prescribed the number of seats in Lok Sabha as divided between states and union territories. This already said over here. And the allocation of seats in Lok Sabha to particular state and division of each state into territory constituency is done on recommendation of Delimation Commission Article 82, which is appointed after completion of each census. So as I have discussed over here, or earlier I have told that there is a method for election, and there is a formula actually how these seats are made, how these territories, the constitutional territories are divided. So there should be a fixed number of seats, and those seats are formulated by a particular formula. That means the ratio are always mentioned. The ratio between number of seats and population of the state is always maintained, and there are 2 segments that are taken care while dividing this territorial constitutions, which I've already told, but telling you again that it should population of each constituency and number of seats allotted, the ratio should be same throughout the state, and among the state also it should be same. That's why population is very important over here. But as we can see that population keeps on changing, so as the population changes, the representation of the number of seats in any particular state could increase or decrease. But for that very purpose, it has been frozen till 2026. How it has been frozen? So we'll see. It has been frozen 2 times. That means it has been altered 2 times. By 42nd Amendment Act 1976, the allocation and division has been frozen till year 2000 earlier. But again after 87th Amendment Act, now when we see these numbers, 42nd Amendment, 7th Amendment, it is very clear by the name itself. That means our constitution has been amended several times, and this was the 87th Amendment. So in 87th Amendment Act 2003, this means in this year this act was brought into action. The allocation of seats shall remain frozen till 2026. So a particular census would be followed for considering the or dividing the territorial constituencies for number of seats for MPs for any particular seats. And this division of state into territorial constituencies shall be done on the basis of 2001 census. So this census would be frozen, remain frozen till 2026. So whatever these Lok Sabha election are going to be take place till 26, the population that has to be considered would be from census 2001 only, not from the 2011 census, which is the latest census. And in next year also there might be census and new population group can be categorized, but still for dividing the territorial constituencies, the population census has to be taken from 2001. So this was the composition of Lok Sabha. Now moving to next topic, important offices. There are certain offices presiding in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So let's see who are they. So the very first important officer in Lok Sabha is Speaker. Why Speaker is very important figure in Lok Sabha? Because Speaker is the head of Lok Sabha, and Speaker is responsible for every business which is taking place in House. So there are many conditions. Let's see what are these. After that we'll see in detail about Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the offices of presiding officer in Rajya Sabha also. So over here, the Houses of People is presided over by Speaker, who is elected from the House among its own member. That means among the 545 members, any member can be elected as Speaker. Generally what happens, the party who has the maximum number of MPs, that means the ruling party, the member of that party only becomes a Speaker. He has to discharge his responsibility as presiding officer, already told, brings the detachment and objectivity bear upon all decisions. He presides over the meeting of houses. Again, he adjourns the house or suspend the meeting if there is no quorum. Quorum we have already discussed, that minimum number of people present in this parliament to start a session. So the Speaker is responsible for starting the session and for adjourning the session if quorum is not maintained. And there was also an option for prorogation and adjournment. Prorogation was done by whom? President of India, whereas adjournment will be done by the Speaker or the presiding officer of that particular office. Now, what is this? Article 94C provides the removal of speaker by resolution of the house passed by majority of all of them of the houses. Now, as if we have seen that speaker is elected among the member of the parliament from that particular house, and if the speaker has to be removed from his position, there can be certain number. First, if he ceases to be a member of Lok Sabha, if any speaker is elected and that particular speaker is not or ceases or due to some reason disqualified to be member of Lok Sabha, then the speaker can be removed. Next method is that by resigning. If the speaker wants, the speaker can resign to deputy speaker and can be removed from the position or the office, as it was case in president also. If president want to be removed from the office, he can just write a letter, termination letter to the vice president, and he can leave the office. It is similar over here. Speaker can write a termination letter and give to deputy speaker and leave his or her office. And the third point is removed by resolution. Now, what is a resolution? Resolution means the member of parliament, if they feel that speaker is not functioning properly, they can initiate some resolution and voting is done. And if whoever wins the side, that means if the voting is done against the resolution, that means speaker will still remain there, and if it is done for a resolution, speaker can move. So whatever the condition would be mentioned in that resolution. And what are the powers of speaker? Powers and function almost we have already discussed, but there are few exceptions that we must know over here. That the speaker has several powers, like constitutional power, rule of power. That means from where this speaker derives its power. So speaker derives his power from constitution, rule of procedure and conduct of business from Lok Sabha and parliamentary convention. And what are the special problems? So over here, not problems actually, when can speaker vote? So speaker has right to vote. So for passing or making any bill as a law, or for passing a bill from lower house to upper house, always and voting is done. So generally speaker doesn't vote on any kind of bills, but when there is deadlock means whenever there is equality in voting. For example, any bill has been passed in Lok Sabha, and if we have 500 members present at that time, and if the bill get 250 votes from each side, then speaker is the one who can vote in favor or against the bill that can be made or that can be passed to the next house. So this is the right of speaker. Next, moving to deputy speaker. So deputy speaker powers are almost same as speaker. When speaker is absent, then deputy speaker will act as a speaker, but when speaker is present, deputy speaker will just be an normal member of parliament. From where this deputy speaker is assigned or elected. So this deputy speaker is not elected actually, deputy speaker and speakers are appointed. So this deputy speaker is appointed from the member of parliament itself, as it was same. So earlier what happened, the speaker and deputy speaker used to be from same parties. That means the party of speaker and deputy speaker was fixed, was same. But after some time, or not after some time actually, after 11th Lok Sabha election, the speaker and the deputy speaker has to be from a separate party. That means if speaker is from the ruling party, and generally the deputy speaker would be from the opposite party. Now how he can be removed? So the removal of deputy speaker is also same as it was in case of speaker. And when he sits in the seat of speaker, he has all powers of the speaker and can perform all his function. And one of the special privileges is that he is appointed as a member of parliament committee. He automatically becomes a chairman. Chairman means the speaker only. So these are the special powers of speaker. And after now talking about the salary and all, so salary and allowances would be as same of speaker whenever the speaker or deputy speaker is functioning at the place of speaker. So this was all about the speaker. Now moving to the chairman and deputy chairman of the Council of State. Now what is this Council of State? Council of State is also called Rajya Sabha. And before this we discuss this, there is also an important post or position that is called panel of chairperson. So there are panel of chairperson who are appointed by speaker itself. So what does this panel of chairmen do? So the speaker nominates at least maximum of 10 members as panel of chairperson. So in case speaker is absent or deputy speaker is absent, any one of the member of these 10 member of a panel of chairperson can act as speaker. So this was not mentioned in this article, so but I'm telling you that this speaker appoints 10% as panel of chairperson, and in case the speaker, deputy speaker both are absent, any one of members from this can act as speaker. But sometimes it may happen that all these all absent. So in this case what happens, any one member of parliament can be appointed by president to act as a speaker. But the important factor to be considered over here is that this panel of chairperson cannot act as chairperson if there is vacancy of speaker and deputy speaker. That means if speaker and deputy speaker are not present in their office, that means no one is selected as chairperson or speaker or deputy speaker, then this panel of chairperson cannot act as speaker in their place, because these are appointed by speaker themselves. So that's why they don't have right or power to act as speaker. Next is chairman and deputy chairman of Council of State. So Council of State, we have seen that it means Rajya Sabha. So we have seen earlier also that the presiding officer of Lok Sabha is called president. Actually vice president is the speaker of or the chairman of Rajya Sabha. He is responsible, or he is the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha, and he functions similar to speaker functions at Lok Sabha. So what are his duties? In absence of chairman, the council of president over by deputy chairman. He is the member of house and is elected by member of house when he ceases to be member of house. So almost these are similar to whatever the function of speaker is there in Lok Sabha. Similarly, president functions over here, and deputy chairman in Rajya Sabha also function as deputy speaker in Lok Sabha. So almost everything are same in case of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, only the members presiding at that positions they vary. Now next is leaders in parliament. So leaders of the houses, although these leaders are not mentioned in our constitution, that means in our constitution any particular provision has not been given that who will be the leader or how the leader would be appointed, but we know that under the rule of Lok Sabha that real leader of the house would be prime minister. So in case of Lok Sabha, who would be leader? Prime minister. Who is the prime minister? The leader of the winning party, or the party which has got majority vote or majority of MPs. So don't get confused over here. Whenever I say that the party who has got majority vote, that means how this cabinet of minister or union council of minister is formed. So at center level, as we have already seen that elections of Lok Sabha, how it happens. So 545 seats election are fought for these seats. So during elections in TV you might have seen 273 something like that. This is the number what a particular government want to get in rule or to get the power with majority vote. So that means the person or the party whoever are getting the majority of member of parliament, they will be in power, and the leader of these would be appointed as prime minister of that house. That is case in Lok Sabha. Next is leader of opposition. So leader of opposition means that anyone or any person from opposite party. This office also plays very important role. As we can see, the democracy, as we have democracy in our country, but sometimes what happens, there are various laws or rules which can be framed. If the opposite party is not present, the leading party or the party who is in power can frame laws by own without any intervention if opposite party is not present. Or so by the name it is clear, leader who will be the leader of opposite party or opposition. So generally what happens, there are very few national level parties present in country. So let's take example in our country, if Congress and BJP are two party, so leader of BJP would be prime minister or leader of the government, whereas the leader of opposition would be whoever will be leader of Congress at that time would be leader of opposite party. And the factor over here which is important, that to be leader of opposite party in Lok Sabha, the number of seats should be more than 1/10. That means if total number is 545 in our Lok Sabha, it should be divided by 10. So that means 55 MP should belong to opposite party. Then only a party is considered to be opposition, and his leader would be considered as leader of opposition party. Next is whip. What is whip? So the offices of leader of houses and leader of opposition are not mentioned in constitution. As I've already told, the upper offices are not mentioned in constitution, whereas the position of whip is also not mentioned but in constitution, and neither in rules of house nor parliamentary statute. So these positions are not mentioned in constitution, but whip plays as the floor leader, assistant floor leader. Floor leader means floor. What is floor? Floor means the ground. Generally, we means floor means the ground on which we move. But in case of this Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, floor means the entire place. For example, it is Lok Sabha, so there are certain members and members are sitting somewhere, so that place or position would be called floor. Managing people actually. So this assistant floor leader will manage these MPs. This is the function of whip. So both the ruling party as well as the opposition has their own whip. And what is the function? They are responsible for ensuring the attendance of his party member. For example, if whip belong to BJP, said he will see that whether all his members are present in Lok Sabha or not, whereas if it belong to the opposite party, he will take attendance of the members of the other party. He regulates and monitors the behavior of parliament. If there is any nuisance going on in parliament, so it's responsibility of whip that any nuisance does not happen, which will indirectly or directly affect the party. Other members are supposed to follow the directive given by whip, otherwise disciplinary action can be taken. So whatever whip say, if the member of parliament doesn't follow, disciplinary action can be taken against them. Moving to next topic, that is legislative procedure in parliament. What is the legislative procedure? Legislation procedure means making of any law. So if we try to understand this by simple formula, how we understand, we have seen this many times, but still let's see again. So as we can see, our parliament consists of three structure, that is president on top, then we have Rajya Sabha and we have Lok Sabha. So bills are introduced, few bills are introduced in any of these parties. There are certain bills which can be issued in both parties, and there are few bills which can be initiated in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So we have several kind of bill: ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill, and constitutional amendment bill. So let's take example of ordinary bill. So if any ordinary bill is introduced in Lok Sabha election is done, and if after election, if it get majority of vote, it is passed to Rajya Sabha. Over here also election is done, and if it is passed by Rajya Sabha also, it goes to president for, and if president gives his assent, it is made a law. And in between there are many certain processes. It's not necessary that all the bills will be directly passed from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha to president. If it is introduced and passed to Rajya Sabha may accept it, may not accept it, or ask for recommendation of changes, or may keep it with. And similarly, if it is good with president, we have already seen that president has several options, whether he want to give his assent to that bill and whether he doesn't want to give his assent to that bill. And in few cases, either Rajya Sabha nor president has right to give right to stop the bill or abandon the bill. They are supposed to give their assent at particular bill. We'll see what are those bills. So starting with the kind of bill, so we have ordinary bills. So ordinary bills which are concerned with any matter which are not financial and amendment to constitution. So any bill which is not related to money or finance and amendment of constitution are called ordinary bill. The other bill are money bills. So by the name itself, it is clear, whenever it is concerned or related with financial matters like taxation and public expenditure, that kind of bill will be called money bill. Next is financial bill. So here we can see little confusion over here, money bill and financial bill. So money bill is specifically related to taxation and public expenditure, etc., whereas the financial bill are different of money bill. We'll see later how they are different, but by the name, as we can see, financial bill, so it will be related to finance only or any kind of financial matter. Next is constitution amendment bill. So by the name itself, it is clear, constitution amendment. So if there is any requirement of amendment of any law or act from the constitution, so these kind of bills are passed. So for example, we have seen that one of the DPSP has been converted to fundamental right. So over here, and constitution amendment bill was passed in any of the houses, and it went to the procedure to form the act. And we have even seen in this video there were several amendment, 87th amendment, 46th amendment, many kind of amendments we have seen in this video itself. So those amendment bills were passed under this constitution amendment bill. So let's start with ordinary bill and see what is this ordinary bill. So as we have seen in introduction, that any bill which is not money bill or financial bill is called ordinary bill, and this bill originate in any house of the parliament. So as I've told in beginning, that there are certain bills which can be introduced or initiated from any houses, whether it be Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, and there are few bills which can be initiated in either in Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. There are certain things which has to be noted over here. So ordinary bill, for this we can see that this can be initiated from any of the house, whether it be Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Now when passed from both the houses and signed by President, it becomes a law, which is very simple procedure which I have been always talking about. Next is any ordinary bill may be introduced either by minister or by other members. So it's not necessary that a bill will be introduced by a minister of that particular house. It can be initiated by any member. And when a bill is introduced by a member other than minister, then it is called private member bill. So who are private members? Private members means simply whoever are not a member of parliament, those are called private member. And we know that any private member can be appointment there, and he can be there until 6 months until he is not formed or he doesn't prove his membership over there. Next is the prescribed period of notice is 1 month for private membership bill. For its introduction by ministers, notice is not required. So if any private member has to introduce any kind of ordinary bill in the session, so the notice period should be minimum of 1 month, whereas if any minister or any member of parliament introduces that bill, so that any notice is not required. Now how this bill proceeds, so as I said, in between there are certain proceeding. We'll see them one by one. So any ordinary bill which is passed in either of the house, whether Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, the first step is first reading. So in first reading, what is done? Simply the highlights, whatever the points are given there. Reading is done by whom? The speaker or the person whoever introduces the bill, he reads the bill that these points are written in the bill. Second is clause by clause consideration. So in second reading, what is done? So let's first read over here. After the first reading, the bill is over. The bill is referred to separate committee or a joint committee. When a motion of referring bill to the committee is carried, committee consider bill clause by clause, suggested omission, insertion, addition bill. When report of committee is presented to the house, the bill is taken into consideration of the house. After the bill is passed, taken into consideration, the house is taken. So simply read by clauses. Clause by clause means that each clause of the bill is read very carefully from a house, and if required it is given to a particular committee for consideration, and committee may recommend it that these clauses of this bill is not good, or it's good, or it needs amendment. So whatever amendment or whatever change has to be done in bill, it is done in second reading. After that, third reading is done. Third reading simply means passing of the bill. So this bill is printed on paper and given to every member of the house, and after that it is read by everyone, and if it is passed by voting majority, it is passed to the next house. Now if it goes to the second house, so if it is introduced in Lok Sabha, it will go to Rajya Sabha, and if it would be introduced in Rajya Sabha, it will come to Lok Sabha. So in that case, what will happen if it goes to second house? In second house, they have option to pass the bill without amendment. So if they receive any certain bill, certain ordinary bill, they can just pass it to the president without any amendment, or they may pass with amendment. So if they suggest any amendment, it will come back to either house. If introduced in Rajya Sabha, it will come to Lok Sabha. If introduced in Lok Sabha, it will come back to, if it is introduced in Lok Sabha and from Rajya Sabha there is certain recommendation, it will come back to Lok Sabha. And if it was introduced in Rajya Sabha and recommendation are asked from Lok Sabha, it will come back to Rajya Sabha. So this is in case of amendment. And next is, if the originating house accept the bill as amended, the second house, it is presented to the president for action. That means let's take an example. If a bill is introduced in Lok Sabha, so it is getting a little confused over here because I'm talking about again and again either and or. So we'll understand with simple example. If any bill is passed from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha asks for certain recommendation or changes or amendment, and if this amendment is done from Lok Sabha, then that bill, ordinary bill, will be considered as assented or given permission from Rajya Sabha, and it can either be given to Rajya Sabha or directly given to president for getting assent from president, which would ultimately make the law. Now there can be a certain case that there is disagreement between both the houses. There can be disagreement between Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. So in that case, president may call for joint session. So that would be called, so in case of disagreement, that case is called deadlock. So in case of deadlock, president can call for joint session, and over there voting can be done on that particular bill. And finally what happens? So finally, if it is passed from both the houses, president gives his assent and it becomes a law, and president too have certain options, certain rights, certain powers that we have already seen in president, so I'm not going with this again. Next is money bill. What comes in money bill? So in money bill, parliament has sole power to authorize expenditure for specific purpose. So whatever money has to be expended for public purpose or any purpose, so this parliament has the right, no one else has the right in case of money bill. So article 110 states that a bill deemed to be money bill if it contained provision dealing with all any of these following matters. So these are the following matter. If these matters are involved in the particular bill, that will be called a money bill. And who decide that any bill is a money bill or not bill? So it is the speaker who decide whether the bill is money bill or any other bill. So what are the options or what are the provisions that are mentioned for any bill to be a money bill? So the imposition, abolition, remission, alteration or regulation of any tax. There are certain type of tax in our country: GST, IGST, income tax, several kind of taxes that are there. So if there is any tweak done to those taxes, tax slabs are changed, tax rates are changed, anything is done, or any remission or any addition has to be done, so these kind of bill would be called as money bill. Next is the regulation of borrowing money or giving of any guarantee by government or amendment of the law with respect to financial obligation. So if government want to take loan from other banks, or let's say from World Bank, so in that case also a bill would be passed and that will be called a money bill. The custody of consolidated fund or contingency fund of payment of money into withdrawal of money from any such fund. So we have several kinds of fund in our country. So these funds could be understand better in economics, but I'm telling you over here. Consolidated funds are the funds which are gathered by collecting taxes. So whatever taxes we pay, those taxes are collected as a fund called consolidated fund, which are further used to give or expend for road, railways, salaries, allowances, many things. Those funds are collected over there. And there is a contingency fund, and contingency fund are the funds which are kept for emergency purpose. So there can be certain period when revenue collection cannot be done, so in that cases contingency fund can be used. So any bill or any act which involve money, withdrawal of money from these funds, so that would also be considered as a money bill. Next is the appropriation of money out of consolidated fund of India. Again, this is same from here. The declaring of any expenditure to be charged on the consolidated fund of the India, increasing the amount of such expenditure. So for example, we pass our budget. We know what is budget. Budget means the expenditure of the expenditure and policy of the coming new financial year. So if according to this budget 2% of our money we want for education, so we have to withdraw this money from somewhere. So if this money has to be withdrawn from consolidated fund, so that will be passed under money bill. Next is the receipt of money of amount of, so these all deals with the money and all, whatever money is received or whatever money is expended, those kind of will be money bill. What is the procedure that has to be followed for a money bill? So let's see what is the procedure. So as I said, there are certain bills which can be introduced only either one house. In the case of ordinary bill, those bill could be introduced in any house, either Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. But in case of money bill, it is provision that it has only to be introduced in Lok Sabha. Why Lok Sabha? Actually, in Lok Sabha, the ruling government is there, or the ruling party is there. The party which is responsible for governing the country, that party presides or sits in Lok Sabha. That's why any kind of expenditure, any kind of receiving tax and all are done by ruling government only. So that is the reason why any money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Now, for introducing any bill, money bill, prior notice or recommendation has to be given to the president, and as I said, the speaker is decide whether it is money bill or not. So any bill which are introduced in Lok Sabha, it is to be passed over the speaker, and president recommendation would be taken before introducing that kind of bill in the house. Next is a money bill after being passed from the Lok Sabha sent to Rajya Sabha for recommendation. Now in this case, the money bill is sent to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has two options. Either it can give recommendation, that means they can give recommendation certain changes are required, you just change them and we can pass this bill further. Or else Rajya Sabha can maximum keep the bill for 14 days but cannot cancel or cannot send the bill back without any consideration. So this means that it has to be given assent by Rajya Sabha. It is necessary. And after that, money bill is passed to president for giving assent. That means, and president too has certain option whether he want it to become a law or not, but he too cannot withhold that bill. That means he cannot reject the bill, he has to give the assent because it is related to money, and ultimately that would be invested or received from the public, and which ultimately helps in running of our country. Next kind of bill is financial bill. Let's see what is a financial bill. Financial bill is also a kind of money bill, or financial bill is a kind of bill which is related to finance. We've already seen earlier in the introduction. It is mentioned in Article 110 that any bill or financial bill are of three kinds. Those are money bills, financial bills, and bills involving expenditure. So a financial bill apart from dealing with one or more matter mentioned in Article 110, there are certain regulation which are mentioned in this article has to be considered as a financial bill. So any bill that is money bill can also be considered as financial bill, but it is not vice versa. Financial bill cannot be considered as money bill, but money bill can considered as a financial bill. So you can read over here about the financial bill under these articles, whatever they mention. Last is lapsing of bill. How a bill can lapse. Lapse means how can a bill end. So there are certain conditions when any bill or financial bill, whenever they are passed in Lok Sabha or Raj Sabha, they can lapse. So in case of lapse, it has to be introduced again. All the steps are required to be taken again. So if any bill was introduced in Lok Sabha, went to Raj Sabha and lapsed over there, or due to certain reason like session ended or something happened, that bill could not be made to act. So if the bill lapsed, it has to be introduced again, and all steps are required to be taken again, whatever the proper procedure is there. Under Article 17 enumerates there are certain conditions in which bill may lapse. So these are the conditions under which bill can lapse. So what are these conditions? Let's read them one by one and understand what they are. So a bill pending in Lok Sabha lapses whether originating in Lok Sabha or transited in Raj Sabha. That means it's not necessary that a bill, if any bill is pending in Lok Sabha, so whether it is originated in Lok Sabha or Raj Sabha, if the bill was originated and it's kept in Lok Sabha, doesn't pass to next houses, and something happened during that session, it may lapse. Or it was passed to initiated in Raj Sabha and sent to Lok Sabha, and Lok Sabha kept it pending for a certain time period of time, it can lapse. Next is a bill can lapse by Lok Sabha but pending in Raj Sabha lapses. So a bill, whenever it is passed by Lok Sabha but it is kept in Raj Sabha for a certain period of time, that may lapse, but not in case of money. As I said, money bill can be only kept for maximum time of 14 days. After that, Raj Sabha has to pass with or without recommendation. Next is a bill not passed by two houses due to disagreement of president has notified. So as you have seen that there are certain conditions whenever a bill is passed from Lok Sabha but not considered by Raj Sabha, there is a deadlock. That means Raj Sabha doesn't want that bill to pass further. In that case, president may call for joint meeting so that proper action to be taken place, but between that time, if something happened, at that time also a bill can lapse. So we can see, so there are certain other points you can see from here. Moving to next, what is this? Annual financial statement. Annual financial statement is also called as budget. We have already seen, or we have already read about the budget. What is budget? So it has been not used in constitution. So budget is not actually a term which has been used in constitution. Instead, actually budget is used for common term for annual function statement. And what is this annual function of statement? It has been written in, or this has been dealt in Article 112 of Constitution, and it deals with the expenditure recipient estimation actually. That means, let's say for 2021, if this budget is passed in Parliament in February or March, sometime end of February or starting of March. So this bill will tell about that we estimate to receive this much from taxation, this much amount from the other services, and we are going to expend this much percent of money of the fund in this area and this much of money in fund on other area. So this is what we call in budget or the annual financial statement. Next is vote on account. The union budget is nothing but a projected income and expenditure statement of the year. We have already seen over there. So as per the constitution, all revenue received and loans raised by union government are called consolidated fund of India. We have seen that. Article 226 mandate the parliamentary approval required to draw money from consolidated fund of India. So this is the article under which parliamentary gets the approval to withdraw money from this fund, this consolidated fund. But the discussion and passing of the budget generally does not beyond the current financial year. So a special provision vote on account is used where the government obtain votes on Lok Sabha to withdraw money from CFI to keep the money flowing for government's day-to-day functions. So we have already seen actually this vote on account. This means whenever any bill is introduced or any bill is introduced in Lok Sabha. So what happens, whenever the bill is introduced and for its approval, there is certain period of time. Certain period of time is required. Let's say 1 month is required for acceptance of that bill to become an act. So for that particular 1 month, some expenses are required. So that expenses are withdrawn from Article 200 under Article 226 on the basis of vote on account. So this is what we call vote on account. The other is demand on grants. So on the recommendation of President, the estimation and expenditure of the other house change on the consolidated funds are presented in Lok Sabha in the form of demand grants. Demand of grants means whatever the demand is there in Lok Sabha for any kind of financial needs. So this can be obtained from demands of grant. So over here I'm skipping these parts, we'll see sometime later because the video is going very long. You can read this appropriate bill other grants from the text itself. It is present on the website. At the end we'll see what are the function of parliament. So, and this will end the video. So starting with the function, we have already seen that how does parliament function. So parliament provide the cabinet. What is the cabinet? Cabinet is the union of ministers which are responsible for all kind of execution of laws and act or for framing of law. No, not framing of law. This cabinet is responsible for execution purpose only. Next is control over the cabinet. So Lok Sabha and the other members are responsible for controlling the cabinet so that they function properly. Next is their answerability. Any kind of issues raised in the parliament related to any problems to certain section of people which are represented by the leader, over there their answerability can be done. Next is financial control. As we have seen, all kind of bill, money bill are passed from parliament only. So here financial control are done. Next is platform for discussion of national issues. So if there any national issue arises, so those kind of discussion are also done in parliament, and of course parliament is responsible for making law. So this ends the video for today. I hope you understood the union legislator. In next video we'll be talking about state legislator. If you have any questions related to this union legislator, you can always ask in the comment box. I'll try to answer them, all your question, all your queries in next video whenever it will come next video. So as we are providing video every day, so most probably your questions answer will be given in next video. So that's all for today's video. See you in next video. Till then, goodbye.